Welcome to the We Are Wake Tech podcast with your host, Wake Tech President, Dr. Scott Ralls.
Hi, I'm Scott Ralls, and welcome to this episode of the We Are Wake Tech podcast. You might be able to tell where we are right now. We are in one of our Wake Tech bookstores, and our bookstores are in partnership with a relatively new partnership at Wake Tech, BibliU. And today joining us is Dr. Malinda Daniel, who is the Director of Change Management for BibliU, a unique name for a bookstore company, but BibliU is unique in the world of digitalization with textbooks and what we've, just moving into the future. And so today we're going to talk about that future here at Wake Tech with BibliU. Malinda, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Now tell us, you're not just came from the bookstore, you've been pretty involved with groups like us, community colleges, for a long time. So tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. No, it was very exciting. I actually was part of the Great 58 for the better part of a decade at South Piedmont Community College. And so I have come up through faculty rank and served in various administrative roles. And so not only do I work for BibliU, but I've been in the classroom with what I'm helping do. And it was such a passion for me, and it was so exciting. And we saw the changes that were coming for the students and for the institution as a whole in terms of equity and access. And I loved it enough to where this is what I do now. I get to work with all the schools, not just my own.
Well, what a great perspective you bring. And it's very fortunate for us in our partnership with BibliU to have you as part of that team.
Absolutely. Well, I think the thing is like we can come in and tell faculty all sorts of things, right? We can explain to students all sorts of things as a company, but if you haven't been in the classroom, if you haven't seen it, if you haven't used it, right, taking it from the noun of the bookstore to the verb of acting with the materials, it can be a little tough. And so I'm thankful for the chance to get to share my experience and now grow with everybody else's.
Well, change in bookstores, change in community colleges. I mean, this is a change period. We used to think of books at a place. Now it's digitalized materials as well as books, as well as the place, but the virtual. And talk to us a little bit about the changes and why is BibliU so key, uniquely positioned to deal with the change to digitalization?
Absolutely. And I love thinking about this change. And I'm going to share with you how it shows up in my head. I think that faculty have historically been and thought of ourselves as Snape in the basement of Hogwarts in the potion lab, right? And holding the book. Now, since BibliU is based out of the UK, I'm going to spare you my British accent, right? But he's standing there with the book, and that's not how our students are learning nowadays, right? It's not the same way. Many of our students are using their phones. They're coming to class this way. They're experiencing things digitally. And so that textbook changeover with things being delivered digitally, obviously, right? Like being able to come in and see the t-shirts and check out the water bottles, pick up a pen, a snack, a beverage, whatever it is that the students need. There's something about having that physical store, especially when mom and dad are on campus, right? But the digital textbook materials and being able to deliver things digitally, what it provides truly is not just an opportunity for the students to have access day one, right? That's what's most important, is that every student comes into the class day one ready to go. And nationally, 7 out of 10 students will come unprepared. And anybody that's taught a class isn't surprised, right? Because you ask the class, hey, does everybody have their books? And most of the time it's crickets. No, maybe one student in the back waves their hands. Some students always
tried to maybe get by. Maybe I don't need a book.
Maybe I don't need it. That's right. And so by providing them day one, right, by using an equitable access program, we ensure the students are ready to go, which means the faculty can kick it off, which means the students can take everything they can from those classes beginning the instant they set foot in the classroom, right? Whether they're logging on or walking through the door, we want them to be prepared. And so, that's the whole idea.
Well, let's dig a little more into this day one equitable access idea. And, for us at Wake Tech, we actually built into our strategic plan. We're just wrapping up our 4-year strategic plan, which is called Reach and Rally. And in that, we said, we're going to, during this period, explore and through an RFP process, new bookstore partnerships because of the transition in terms of books from the hard books that we're used to digital, but also the cost factor. And the cost factor for many students can be a challenge, particularly when our tuition in North Carolina is relatively low, but the book prices have kept going up. So partnership with BibliU, and now what we have is Eagle Start Advantage, day one access. Can you talk to us a little bit about the transitions and what does day one access mean and why is that such an advantage, and also the cost opportunities that
Absolutely. So Day One Advantage, or the equitable access programs, it's really the idea that we as institutions of higher education have been placing on classes like chemistry for eons, right? We've said, like, if you're going to take a chemistry class, we're going to have a lab fee associated with that because you need to use the Bunsen burner, or whatever the case may be. But without the Bunsen burner, you're not going to be successful in the classroom, right? Aren't all course materials important to classroom success, right? And so equitable access programs, inclusive access programs, the Eagle Advantage program here, that is the idea, right? Is that the books, the course materials, the resources that the faculty have deliberately selected to help ensure that everybody meets the student learning outcomes, the course objectives, and are able to go be successful members of our community. We say that all those things are important. And so in order for them to be there day one, right, the fee is then assigned to the class. But what's great about that, and I think what's so important for the students, right, and again, realizing how affordable community colleges like Wake Tech are in the state of North Carolina, that cost is also predictable. Right? And so the students can come in and they can budget. And so when we talk about accessibility, it's not just about them having access to the materials day one, but they also have the ability to know what this is going to cost, right? How many times have students registered for classes, then gone to the bookstore to select materials, and been hit with some kind of astronomical fee, right? And so they've got this book, and so if their tuition is $400 and they've planned for $400 worth of tuition for the semester, if their books come in at $500 for the sake of argument, that may be cost prohibitive, right? Which then results in them either going without materials, which is not great for anybody, right? Or dropping a class, which then delays their progress, which then delays their graduation. And the last thing that I think any of us want, especially educator hearts, is for our students to have to make a decision between rent or groceries or childcare or life things and textbooks, because it's going to be a no-brainer.
Well, and sometimes you would see students making these choices based on that were, well, I do have rent and groceries and I'm going to college to better myself, so I'll maybe not buy the book and see if how well I can do without the book. And way too often that didn't work.
Absolutely.
And so for us, that's why it's important to keep those fees manageable, low where we can, and for students to have day one. Because when you get started in college, you start.
Right.
You're moving.
Yes.
And so you got to have the materials to move with it.
Sure. And and especially as we talk about students, I know that you've got the numerous campuses and students are commuting around the area. They may not get the chance to stop by here before they go to class. Again, life. Right? And we've also seen students who walk by here and still don't stop before they go to class because they don't know what they don't know, right? Part of that college knowledge is, if they're coming directly, if they're the first person in their family to go to college or they're coming right from high school, they may not realize that we're going to hit the ground running, right? And so they didn't know that they needed the access code. They didn't know that they were going to start using the book, right? They might have thought that they were just going to kind of do like, I have young kids in school, and I'm not sure what they do the first and the last week, to be totally honest. But in college, right, we get going and then we don't wrap until the end. And so for them to be able to come in but know that the materials are there, right, or be surprised that the materials, yes, I have everything. I don't have to make this decision. And when we spread it across the entire institution, again, the beautiful idea is that it is more affordable, right? The publishers know, everybody knows. The whole funding model is ideal that we say there's 30 students in this class, we're going to get 30. Right, and all the students are going to have their books. They're all going to come in. They're all going to be prepared. Versus 7 of them are going to stop by the bookstore at the beginning, then 12, et cetera. So we're able to negotiate better prices, to be totally honest, and then reflect that back to the institution, reflect that back to the students. So you get day one access, and it's more affordable.
Well, I love the way too you talk about predictability because higher ed's been kind of unpredictable for many students and many families. You pay tuition. And then you find out that your fees are up here and the books are so all over the place and for years have been rising even more so than college tuition in some cases.
Absolutely.
So you look at the ability to know that, at a community college in North Carolina, your tuition is set, $76 credit hour, and then your fees are very low and managed. And then your books are based on a flat fee. So, you know what that price is. And here it is a good price. In fact, for community colleges like Wake Tech, we have among the best return on investment. And there's data to show this, studies to show this. And part of that is because of what you can do when you leave, because of the job market. But a big part of that's what you don't have to pay
Yeah.
to go to college. It doesn't cost you an arm and a leg, and books have been, in the past for many students, one of those arms and one of those legs. So this predictability is a big thing.
Absolutely. Well, if you think about, especially, our non-traditional adult learners, right, who are coming back to school, or the students who are, like you said, that are also working, right? If they can work this into their budget and they know what it's going to look like, they can plan better, right? Which means then they can work better with their advisors and say, okay, I can afford 3 classes this semester, 4 in the spring, and I'll take the other one over the summer, right? But it gives them the opportunity to plan for that and to know what it's going to look like so they can also live their lives.
Yeah. And predictability and cost is good, but one thing that's not predictable is where technology is going.
Absolutely.
And so what's happened over time is what we used to, what we called books and that people would stand in line for at a place like the bookstore, now are these digital tools of all different types. And for many of our students, the vast majority of Wake Tech students are taking courses in person, but courses online.
Sure.
Most of them do take courses online as well as courses in person. And so that flexibility and the experience of the things that you can get digitally that you couldn't get before. So talk to us a little bit about the changes and why is BibliU so digitally focused for what we still call a bookstore.
Sure, absolutely. Well, and again, I think, talking about the bookstore, right, there's some things that will never go digital, to start there, right? Stethoscopes for our nursing students.
Yep.
I mean, never say never, technically, right? Like, I never thought I'd live in the world that I live in today. But a lot of these things, workbooks and things like that, those aren't going to be going digital. Everything else, when you can have it at the palm of your hands, right? You think about, you see people at baseball games, you see people waiting in, at stoplights, which is not the best idea, but people are constantly accessing information. And so the idea that we then take our textbooks and put them there, very similar idea. A lot of this is coming out of our CEO, Dave Sherwood. He had an experience when he was in school. He found the books to be cost prohibitive. He thought he could do better, right? He thought there was a different way to do this, and there was no reason for that 20-pound book, right, to cost what it did. Digital is cheaper. Right? You think about what's happened with cameras, right? And now, I don't even know if people print out photos anymore, right?
Yeah,
But I do for my right, I do for my grandmother, and they've gotten so much cheaper. But digital is cheaper, and we're not talking about changing from Bob's third edition of World Geography to a different book. We're talking about changing delivery methodology. We're talking about putting it in the palm of our hands. We're talking about giving it to students in a way that they're already communicating, right? So whether it's, our books aren't on Instagram, et cetera, but they're used to being digital, and we've seen this specifically in K-12, right? I have a 4th grader and a 2nd grader. They don't have books. They have workbooks, right, as they work on their writing, but everything's already digital.
And most high school students today
don't have books.
Yeah.
And so then the idea that it's taken a while, it's because higher ed's notorious for super quick change, right? But the idea that it's taken kind of this long for higher ed to then catch up, right? This is something we're actually doing our students, I believe, historically a disservice by having them go from digital and understanding that, because they're digital natives, right? Make no mistake. And even for those non-traditional adult students who are coming back, the world is going digital. And so we're almost doing a disservice by continuing doing this in a different way, right? I mean, you see, unfortunately, I was recently in a doctor's office trying to figure out something that was going on with one of my kiddos, and they didn't carry around a book bag full of books, right? They had a phone, they had a computer, they're Googling it, right? You go to the mechanic and you're like, oh, it's making this weird noise. Here's the sound, right? Because I Googled it and I found it, right? We're all going digital, right? My plumber showed up not that long ago, right? And we were having a conversation. There wasn't a flip book for him to figure out what we were using, right? It's all on their phone. And so it's about reaching students where they are.
We don't have phone books anymore that we go through.
I know. We don't even have a Sears catalog anymore. That's where we're at. But no, but it's this idea that everything is now available in the palm of our hands. And I think that our students expect that. I think society expects that. And now we're able to deliver an abundance of college course materials in that same way. And the other great thing is that it really provides the opportunity for multitasking, right? So you're not carrying this around, but you realize you're walking around Costco on Saturday, right? You can be listening to your audiobook, right? Because our books can be audio. You can be folding laundry, you can be walking the dog. Yes, right? And that works great for faculty too that want to refresh before teaching in class again.
On the way.
Yeah, absolutely. You listen to it at 1.5 speed, 2 speed, and right, you can refresh really well. You can be preparing for those things. And it also gives us the chance as educators to live in a slight world of fantasy. So from here on out, when you're walking around campus and you see students with their AirPods in or their Beats, just assume that they're studying.
Yeah. Well, it's taken us a while to get here, particularly in higher ed. But what you're really saying is, and here at Wake Tech, digitization is the norm.
It is.
Now, I can get the book if I want the book, and I'm one of these old guys. My kids are now grown, but they'll be back. Next week we have our big beach vacation, and I'll carry my backpack full of books, and they'll laugh at me because they don't carry books anywhere.
Sure.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
And you can do that.
Yeah.
But for today's students who are digital natives, this is more their norm and provides them more opportunity and possibility.
Absolutely. Well, and I think it's only going to keep going more digital, right? Like you see some of the advances in some of the courseware, right?
The internet's not a fad. It is now.
Apparently
it is
not.
here.
Yes.
Now they say AI, and I think that's going to catch on.
That's going to be the next thing as well. Yeah. And we're working on that. So you talked about like where are we now and where is this going? And I think AI is certainly a part of that. And so we do have we work a lot with OERs because that's another wave that's coming, right? And so one of the things that was really cool.
OERs being the original
Open educational resources. Yes. So it's the free resources that are available out there.
And Wake Tech's been out in front of that for many years.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I really like about BibliU is that we're not saying like don't use OER, which sounds counterintuitive to a bookstore, right? But we recognize that this is where this is going, right? It's, Freud's been dead 100 years. Basic psychology's kind of set, right? And so it's not surprising that as the internet expands and as that we have access to more information, that we would have more open educational resources where everybody's kind of agreed on what we're going to call the canon of whatever
Well, I know
subject.
that was important for us at Wake Tech because our faculty have been very much out front on OER resources, and so having a bookstore that, and I struggle to even say bookstore anymore, but that makes that work was very important for us.
Absolutely. And one of the ways that we're trying to do that is we have a thing called Engage. And so what Engage does is it allows faculty members using open educational resources to mix and remaster to come up with the perfect content. I say that this is actually this is taking the concept of academic freedom and making it a verb, right? So assuming that it's all copyright compliant, you could take chapter 1 from this one, chapter 4 from that one, chapter 5 from this one, and create the perfect amalgamation.
Like if I want to create a playlist at home.
Yes.
That's what it is.
It's the same idea, yeah. And then we can actually take an AI overlay that goes on top of it. And what it allows for is the students to make sure that they're getting the material. It's like an embedded AI-driven study guide.
Well, let me ask you two things. Because BibliU has its roots in Europe.
Yes.
But as growth here, South Piedmont being early in North Carolina, Wake Tech being one of the bigger in the United States for your customers. Talk a little bit about the history of BibliU and why is it uniquely positioned now? And then tell us, you started talking about AI, and now we're talking about where is BibliU going in the next few years?
Yeah. So our roots, like you mentioned, are in the UK. And so that's where our founder, Dave Sherwood, is from. And so we actually provide materials for almost all the institutions in the United Kingdom. And they are going digital. They are going OER. They are going right to all of this. Their funding model is set up a little bit differently than schools here in the States. But no, the roots were really grounded in it's a tech company, right? With the idea, it's a digital bookstore provider. And for a long time, that was the basis of what we provided. And then about 18 months, 2 years ago now or so, we merged with Texas Book Company, who has over 75 years of bookstore experience. And so now we're doing both because we realize it's not just the books, right?
It's kind of the experience too.
Absolutely. Right. It's the Wake Tech mom and dad coffee cups, right? It's the onesies, it's the dog collars, it's the school spirit, because that is a huge part of being an Eagle, right? Is also having that and getting to feel that and see that, and that helps draw that community in that school, all those things, right? And so that was one of the steps I think that we've taken in terms of where we're going in the future. And additionally, we will continue to grow in that digital format, and then also understanding the needs of school stores, right? And so understanding as that changes over, right? So you'll see, I remember the day they installed the Apple table, right? And so I happened to be here the day the Apple table showed up, and everybody was very excited. And, the technology is going to change, and I don't know what comes after the laptop, but we'll figure that out, and we'll have that here too, right? Like whatever these changes are going to continue to be, whether it's everybody's taking classes virtually with headsets, sitting, who knows?
But that's where BibliU is unique, because you're uniquely attuned to and flexible to move in those directions.
I think it's about, yes. So tech companies are historically and kind of known for being very dynamic and to pivot. And we are still small enough and nimble enough. And because that's our soul, if you will, we pivot and we move. And it's like, oh, well, this bump in the road showed up. Like, okay, so AI shows up. What does that mean for all of these things, right? What does this mean for that? And the answer is, we'll go figure it out. Because and the other beautiful thing about it is, I think, is having all of the people in staff, right, in-house. So our own engineers, our own product developers, our own team of people who can troubleshoot. So we're not calling and being told, right, your call is very important to us, and be answered in the order it's received. It's like, hey, Josh, this is what we got going. What do we do, right? And so regardless of time zones, we figure it out, and we all get together and do the things. So,
well, I love your passion. I love the fact that you are. I even struggle still to say bookstore, because you're really a tech company, and it's a bookstore. How would you even call us?
You know what we are? Is we're a solution to student needs.
There you go.
So whatever, I just made up that tagline.
We got to shorten it up a little bit.
Yes, but we are the solution. If the students need pencils, we want them to have pencils. If they need orange juice in between classes, right, stop by the bookstore and get the orange juice. If they need a sweatshirt, if they need a textbook. And they can go virtually, or they can come into our bookstore. 100%. What we want to do is do what's right for the students. And I will tell you that there is an amazing team here that has helped us do that. And so we're thankful to be a partner, not just a vendor, and we are.
Well, it is a partnership. It's a partnership that supports our students. I will say to our students as we're closing, you can pretty much, with our bookstore solution provider for students, you can get pretty much everything you need virtually, but still come into the bookstore, because the bookstores are beautiful there now. And look, we didn't ever have pajama bottoms before. So now we got all kinds of, those aren't really pajamas, whatever. We've got stuff that you've never seen before at our BibliU bookstores here on the Wake Tech campuses. So like we say, expect the unexpected. Come into our bookstore and you will expect things that you will see things that you had not expected before through our new BibliU partnership. And Dr. Malinda Daniel, thank you so much for bringing your passion and your partnership with the BibliU team to Wake Tech and making Wake Tech an even more special place thanks to this partnership.
It is absolutely our pleasure. We're thankful to be a part with Wake Tech.
Absolutely.
As you lead the way. Yes.
And for all the viewers and listeners today, thank you for joining us on our episode today of the We Are Wake Tech podcast. Be sure to go and rate us, if you will, and tell your friends and neighbors they can find the We Are Wake Tech and find out all about We Are Wake Tech throughout the year by going to wherever they look for podcasts. Spotify, Apple, we'll be there. So look for We Are Wake Tech and rate us, and be sure to join us next month for the We Are Wake Tech podcast. Thank you.
I'm Joshua McKinney with your Wake Tech News Update. Wake County Fire Academy Class 16 is ready to hit the front lines. 20 new firefighters earned national certification while gaining critical hands-on training after completing Wake Tech's Career in a Year program, a partnership between Wake Tech and Wake County. The ceremony honored leadership and resilience, with many grads now stepping into roles with fire departments across the region. Wake Tech partnered with NC State University to host a powerful employment and resource summit for veterans and military families. Held at the Southern Wake campus, the event connected attendees with job leads, career services, and vital support networks, all in one place. It's a part of Wake Tech's ongoing commitment as a military-friendly gold institution supporting over 1,100 student veterans. Dozens of local entrepreneurs returned to Wake Tech for the Launch Wake County Alumni Vendor Expo. More than 60 small business owners, many alumni of Wake Tech's 10-week launch training program, showcased their products from beauty and wellness to apparel and gourmet treats. These grads are growing Wake County's economy one creative step at a time. Wake Tech celebrated the latest graduates of its Pathfinders program. 30 students who completed short-term training to fast-track their careers. Many earned industry credentials in fields like construction, healthcare, and public safety. The program is a vital bridge for underrepresented populations looking for a change of their futures. Whether you're exploring transfer opportunities or career training, Wake Tech offers in-person campus tours to help you find your fit. Discover high-tech labs, student support services, and pathways that lead to big goals. Sign up now at visit.waketech.edu. Your future starts here. And that's your Wake Tech News Update.
Thank you for listening to the We Are Wake Tech podcast. Join us next month for more insightful conversations about the programs and people of Wake Tech and how the college changes lives every day. Be sure to subscribe to your favorite podcast app to have each episode delivered right to your computer or mobile device. For more, find us at podcast.waketech.edu. To learn more about Wake Tech's exceptional educational opportunities, visit waketech.edu.